All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back here to Kickin It With Knuble, episode 6. Mike, lots to talk about. First couple of games for the Flyers. You're back from Washington. How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was great. Went down to D.C. for Caps. Washington Capitals brought in a bunch of alumni. It's their 50th year of existence, right? I think the Flyers had theirs a few years ago. Different levels, different times on expansion there. So they had a bunch of guys back. It was a lot of fun. It's 3 days. We had an alumni game and a fan fest and a home opener. And so it was good to catch up with guys and see that. So kind of the perks of playing against, playing for some different teams and you get to enjoy some of the fun stuff you only get to do with them. They bring you back and, have a good time and catch up. I think the best part about it is catching up with guys, right? And
yeah,
it's funny. Some of the guys didn't realize, I was 37, 38, 39 years old playing with them, and they're that age now. And they're like, well, that's, it gives them a little different perspective on where everybody was, right? They were probably 23, 24 at the time. Now they're a little bit older. So it's, it's funny how it works out like that. So, but it was great to catch up with guys who just, tell the old stories and stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I saw the picture the Caps put out of you on the ice there, all the guys on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that was the home opener. That's awesome.
Yeah,
those jackets were sweet.
Yeah. Everybody got these real nice leather jackets, right? And that seems to be a thing. I had about 7 of them piling up in the closet, but they're really cool. And they had your name on the sleeve, all stitched in and stuff, and it was pretty neat. So guys look good on the ice there together, and it's one of the nice gifts. They gave a bunch of clothes. It's really cool. They really did a nice job. I mean, Caps did a really, really good job with it. They had an email, and then it was with your clothes, and you knew exactly what you're wearing that day. They had it all waiting for you in your room. You'd be like, so this shirt with this top, and then everybody looked the same. Everybody was like, it's like that old
laid out for you.
It's like that old Eminem video when everybody's wearing the same thing, and they're walking around town. So it was good. It was fun. Weather was awesome. Food was great. Drink was great. It was great. So
nice. That's awesome. There you go. So while you're away, Flyers played 3 games. The one was Friday, Saturday, and then ended up playing the other night, Tuesday. So it's Thursday as we're recording this. This is kind of split up in 2 different sections. So you'll hear from me and Mike here kind of talking about the Flyers, kind of recent stuff now. And then in a little bit, you'll hear from Mike Richards, who's going to be joining us. So that'll be, that's going to be a lot of fun. We're recording this before that. As for the Flyers, Mike, and also your son, Cole. Let's talk about Cole real quick. First star of the week for Notre Dame. He's got 4 points in 2 games. He's having a real good start to the year.
Yeah, they started at St. Lawrence and Clarkson, which are actually sneaky tough places to play, right? In upstate New York. I think the rinks are smaller. They just have a real tight vibe to them. It's a little different. The teams are made a little bit different. They're a little older, a little heavier than kind of what you see in the Big Ten, where there's more like NHL prospects playing, and it's a little more free flowing. It's kind of a little more run and gun. But certainly, it was a good start for him, and points aren't everything, but it's how you're playing too, but obviously it's a confidence thing, and it's great to get started like that. So I'm not complaining. It'd be Big Ten first star of the week. First week is good.
Yeah, it's great.
Hopefully it's a good omen,
great way to start a year.
Yeah. So we're happy about that. And we head down there tomorrow. They play Alaska Fairbanks this weekend down there. So in South Bend, and so we'll be down in South Bend all weekend.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So as for the Flyers, Michkov, Luchanko, they make their NHL debuts. There's a lot of stuff to talk about here. I'm just going to kind of run through some things, and then we'll kind of dissect it. Michkov starting the season with 3 points, 2 goals, and an assist. 2 of those goals coming against the Oilers. Flyers had so far they're 1-1-1, 3-2 shootout win in Vancouver, 6-3 loss in regulation to the Flames on Saturday, and then 4-3 in Edmonton. Overtime loss the other night to the Oilers, who obviously the whole talk was the Oilers that they're winless and this whole thing. So we'll talk about that in a minute. As for Michkov, Luchanko, we'll start with them because those are obviously the pretty big stories from the first couple of games here. Michkov with 3 points. He looks good. I think the game in Vancouver, he probably looked a little nervous. Took him a while to settle in. I thought the third period was probably his best period. Had a couple of chances, had that little between the legs play on the power play. Calgary, similar kind of thing. He I think it was harder for him to get going, Mike, just because of all the penalties and everything that was kind of going on. Obviously, he doesn't play penalty kill, so that was kind of putting a wrench into the lines and all that. Then Frost got banged up, so he was kind of like everything was just kind of all over the place. I thought it was a similar kind of thing where the game in Calgary, he kind of took a while to get going, especially in the third period. He got an assist on Konechny's power play goal. That was Konechny's second goal of the game, and that was his first NHL point. And then the game against the Oilers, it's like bam, right out of the gates, two goals. The one, and like of course his first goal has to be like a video review, and then there's a goalie challenge. You know what I mean? Like there couldn't just be like exactly how his second one was, where you knew it was him. But he gets two quick ones. Anything that you've noticed kind of so far just to start the year, and just like in terms of his play, how he looks, does he look comfortable, nervous, any of that?
Well, you brought up the Calgary game where you felt like maybe, obviously first game jitters, you're not going to say too much about that. You talk about second game, you felt like you didn't see him at all in the beginning, and then kind of got going as the game got going. Hard to say too. I mean, some young players will wade into the game, like you wade into the water, right? Like they kind of get, it takes a little while to get going. And then by the third period, you start to notice them more. So like, it's kind of nice to see against Edmonton. He kind of reversed that scenario and had two quick ones in the beginning, and then second period, really Edmonton took over. In the third, he was a little more relevant again, and made some really nice plays down along the goal line. I think he's making a lot of confident plays. I think at one point in the 5-on-3, they had a face-off in the corner. Center got kicked out. He tried to jump in and take it, and Konechny said, no, I'm taking the face-off. And actually, Puck actually squirted right by him. He wasn't quite jammed him up and slipped through him, But I think overall he's looking pretty confident. He's Torts is playing him confident. Didn't love him in the extra frame. Puck came back at 3-on-0 going one way, and he came back and circled. Then they got a second chance in the middle of the ice, and that's just a young player, right? Trying to win the game instead of kind of like this, recognizing where this is really bad, and I need to just come back and stop, and we need to we just had a 2-on-0 break the other way. Like it's not time for me to circle. And those are, he's 19. He's going to start to figure that stuff out, And so, right. And you got to know who's on the ice, right? You're playing against Connor David and Leon Draisaitl. Like you can't start
two of the best players in the world.
I guess if you really want to think you're that confident, you want to run and gun with these guys. Well, you're probably losing that battle. In all fairness, and they're two guys that have been off to semi-slow start. So, their coach is going to jam them on the ice, and they see a rookie out there. They're like, "Oh, you get him," go for him, And so, that was it was kind of. I wouldn't say it's too out of character, or whatever, but it's probably a learning, teaching moment, and Torts again figuring out, okay, what do I have in this guy? So it's, but I think overall with him, I think everything's kind of gone as planned, as like as you could hope for, as good as you can hope for, with knowing what you know in preseason and then leading it into the regular season
here. Yeah, I mean, for him to start the year point per game and look like one of the better guys, and again, I didn't think he was going to come and blow the door off, but it's definitely good to see that he's kind of getting into the games and again, like it's kind of like what you said, like the more you kind of take it game by game, see how he does and go from there.
And he does. And at the end of the day, too, you don't have a superstar help. You're not playing with David or a Draisaitl. We can really help you along. You're kind of, mixed in with everybody. So it's like I say, it's probably gone as good as as well as they could have hoped at this point.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then as for Luchanko, like he's a couple of good moments. I think both guys have had some rough moments. They both have taken penalties. As for Jett, there was the goal in Vancouver, the Canucks' second goal of the game that he kind of lost the coverage on. Zamula kind of went on the other side too, and it was like both defensemen were on one side. The center didn't read it, and at that point, it's just a open net for Blueger. He tapped it in. So I mean, I think for Jett, it's 2 games. He has, as of right now, he's got 2 of 3, so he has 7 games left. He did not play in Calgary; he was scratched. Noah Cates came in, and really, I think the reasoning for that is, and what they said was just they didn't want him to get kind of too all over the place, just with all the travel and everything that's kind of been going on, and obviously it's a harder camp and everything. So he ended up playing 2 of those games, played the other night in Edmonton. And I think they did that too more because Frost did get banged up in Calgary. So it literally, Mike, as soon as we were saying the Flyers were healthy, and there was all this thing about like, that they're able to go into the year and have all these guys are starting getting banged up. Like Farabee had a maintenance day.
Mhm.
Sealer hasn't played yet. Like Ristolainen has been a little banged up. Torch mentioned that they had some bumps and bruises. So like everything's kind of going all over the place. So that's probably why Luchanko also was kind of, out and then in as well. But I think a lot of, and again, it goes back to what you were saying, and also Danny B say it was Bergeron. And I did some video breakdown on it, and I was looking at some other clips and just how he plays defensively, and he looks just like that. Like and I know it's so early and he's only played 2 games, and I'm not trying to compare him to Bergeron by any means, but it's very exciting, like to see like the defensive play and just like where to go. And like there was a play in Vancouver that he made. But again, similar thing. Flyers have kind of got caught with this a little bit early on. I know this is a long-winded question here, but there was a play in the corner, both defensemen go to the same side again, and he reads it and covers the puck on the other side, play went behind the net. Like, it's just little things like that. And that's what made Bergeron. You know what I mean? Obviously, he was very good offensive talent, face-offs, all that too. But it's just the little things from Luchanko that I've been noticing the most.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the decision making that has to happen, at the NHL level is so lightning quick, and especially when you're a centerman, right? And recognizing where there's trouble, this isn't shaping up right. I've got to bail out, and I got to get out of here, and I have to be, 2 defensemen in one corner. I can't have my brain turned off, and I'm supposed to go in the corner. Oh, well, now there's 3 of us in the corner. You got to be able to recognize danger when where there's trouble. I would like to see is like face-off percentage a little bit higher, but again,
that's been a team issue too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of up with everybody. It's a lot, and I mean the pace, he's fine. You can see when he really wants to get up the ice, he can go into the scamper, kind of a scamper mode. His legs are a little gangly and stuff like that. Like he can get up the ice, and so a couple good chances here and there. Again, maybe after a couple this is not like. This is a little bit, it's daunting for a whole team. I mean, now you think about it. We talked last week, and they were already on the road. So now you played 3 games. You still have another one, Thursday night against Seattle. You're still not out of this yet. You're probably red-eyeing back because you got your home opener. I mean, I'm not sure when the next game. I would assume Saturday, maybe
Saturday night, yeah.
Saturday night. So you're probably taking a red eye back tonight. You're getting home at 5 a.m. Like it's a lot right now. And so part of that too, you're going to sit him because the other guy's on the trip. You want to make sure everybody gets their, everybody gets a game in. Injuries start to like ding up guys, but I think the big decision will be in another week to 10 days. To be like, hey, is this the best way? Is this best for his development? And do we feel that if we get past this 9-10 game point, then we really got to make a decision if this is best for his development. And so you're like, he might, sure, he can play in the NHL, but is it best for him right now? Is it best for his development? So, those are decisions that they got to kind of make. And, this is where the collective bargain and the CHL deal, where you like to be able to, well, why can't, I wish he could just go to Lehigh, right? And
exactly.
You have to weigh that, be like, well, he's going to go, you want him to play. He's up for World Junior. That's such a big deal in Canada. It's a big deal in his career,
And he's gonna play like pretty high up too if he.
Yeah. So you're not gonna, is it worth keeping him? And then now you got to let him go for a month to go to World Junior. And now and it's just these questions. So some of the stuff has to pile up, and that's why the brain trust has been there for a while, and they've had experience with this. And so there's multiple questions that you have to ask. And his situation is a little bit different, but for a daunting start to the season, I mean, it's going pretty good, could have gone better a little bit. Yeah. You like see a break, and then kind of see, these games pile up and you're kind of down on the bottom of the stats, and you got to wonder how that wears on guys, and you're kind of like down at the bottom, but I don't know. So there's a lot of little factors that factor in here to kind of see what's going to be best. Again, for his development is the big thing, and so
exactly,
it's fair to him to development process.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like for me, like if it keeps going like this, and there isn't any moments where it's like, okay, he's earned that, he should stay. I think if it keeps like this, I would send him back. Mm-hmm. That's just me. I think with what I've seen and just more of, kind of like what you were saying, like I'm not, again, like we said this on the first episode, they don't have to be good yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not ready to force Luchanko to play 15, 16 minutes a night, and then say, you already have Frost, who's banged up. Coots has had injury issues the past couple of years, and then you have Lawton. So, like, are you going to keep Luchanko and kind of bank that those guys can stay healthy so that he can, end up being first, second line center? Then can he do that at 19 years old, 18 years old?
Yeah, and
You
I
know
don't
what I
know.
mean? It's tough.
Yeah, it is. And I'm just, as you're talking, I'm thinking about development. So if it's mid October now, so maybe you can keep them till the first part of November. You go to Guelph for 3 weeks, get your legs under you, get scoring. Basically, you're with World Junior from December 5th or 8th, somewhere in there, till January 8th. You're basically with Team Canada for a month. So now you're into January, and now maybe go back to junior and play January, February, March, depending how their team's doing. They're done around March, and then you can kind of figure out. Then you send them to Lehigh. So at the end of the day, you're probably playing 30 junior games. You can play 9 with the NHL. You probably play 30 junior games. You're probably playing 8. You're probably playing 10 or 11, including exhibitions with World Junior. So, and then you go to Lehigh in March when the junior season's over. And so that to me seems like a decent plan as well. You get a lot out of them. Kind of cross. That World Junior thing is a big thing for a kid in Canada. It's really big. Really the only way you're going to skip that is if you're a top 2 line guy, and do you see that happening yet? I'm not sure. I don't know. So it's, there's probably a nice development plan there for them. If you start piecing it together, you can really kind of see how it's going to play out. You'd be in Lehigh Valley by March, and then, see what happens then. So.
Yeah, I mean, for him to go to the AHL, the rule is that the player must be at least 18 years or older on or before September 15th of each season. So I think that ends up working out in Luchanko's case, and then he would be able to go. I forgot, as you said that, I forgot that they changed the rule because I know it was 20, I think, right? You had to be at least 20.
It's a CHL deal, right? So if you're playing, you can't, if you're not playing on the NHL team with this in your CHL player, then you got to go play in junior, and it kind of affects that. That's going to come up probably in the next CBA. Teams are probably like, oh, we got some real tweeners here that might not be the best for them, might be better for them. It's kind of protecting the junior teams, right? So their products, they don't want to let their stars go to the American League. Now we're naked in junior. We don't have our stars back. So, if he's a college kid, to your point, if he's a college kid and leaves college at 18, Macklin, Celebrini, these guys, then he can go to the American League. It's funny. It's a CHL thing, right? So it's interesting how it works. So
all right. So as for some of the other guys, Farabee, Brink, they look good. I think, and Mike, those were 2 guys you mentioned that they were kind of finishers that they had Jett with to start the year. Both those guys have been finishing. Brink had a really nice. He scored the other night. It was a deflection, kind of self-made deflection on that for Ekholm on the Oilers. He had a goal the other night. Farabee had a beautiful goal, 3-on-2 rush. They ended up putting Couturier up because, again, like I said, the lines kind of got a little jumpy, but those guys look good. Tippett, he's had some really good moments, I think, especially in the last couple of games. As for some of the other veterans, too, a lot of people have been pretty unhappy with them. Guys like Lawton, guys like Couturier, guys like, I think Paling's had a really rough start to the year. Couple of penalties, couple of just like weird plays, and he hasn't been good in the dot, and really no one has. I know you touched on that. We'll kind of dive into that in a minute, but just any thoughts on some of the guys I mentioned there?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you go back to Brink and Farabee, like, they kind of know that there's not their kind of spots are not on the line, but like we don't want to be like a bubble guy. We want to be like one of the roles, one of the guys here that's going to be here in the future. And Brink plays pretty hard. He gets in there. He knows he's got to get there with his feet, and he's got to be kind of pesky. Farabee had a great fight against Corey Perry, which was that was great to see. That's really that does a lot for a team, and amongst the coaching staff, gets guys talking, be like, hey, that's a good fight. Honorable. It was brewing during the commercial timeout, and so. Just adding that, scoring a goal and adding that to your game is pretty good. So, and then, and Tippett, watching the Edmonton game, boy, was he like dangerous, right? And like, he's a big load coming down the ice and skating, and, he's a lot to handle, right? And
Did you see he had that play on Ekholm, the little one-on-one move. Did you see that?
Yeah, when he throw and then came back again and then hit the post. That was a nice sequence, really nice sequence. And other points, during the game, he's showing pretty nice skill set, and getting around the ice. But and then when teams are struggling, there's always it seems like it's like clockwork. Hey, okay, now there's a lot of focus and talk on the young guys, and they're like, okay, what about the veterans? Well, the veterans on this team seem to be down, in the third or fourth line guys and killing penalties and playing that style. And once the PP start happening and they can get choppy and they're there for a while, and it's hard to get some momentum going, and so it's again, people are always chatter about the veterans. Hey, you got to do more, and they're veteran guys. They know, they're like, no panic in them, because they know like, hey, we're all right here. We're all right in this road trip. And if we have a win tonight, we're really good, and then we can get back home and start getting to kind of real life up and down the East Coast. So they that's not none of that's lost on any of them, but I don't think they're panicking. And I think as a veteran, you realize that, and you're always out there doing your best. And sometimes the games don't line up that way. They get choppy. There's penalties. There's stopping, starting, PPs. You're kind of, now all of a sudden you've been on the bench for 15 minutes. And it's like you can't get going. So again, a lot of this is still in motion. Wait and see. Again, I think we talked 2-2 on a trip would be very good. At the end of the day, you've gone to OT twice, and still with it would be great to get a regular regulation win. Yeah, that would be a big deal. And then you're flying home on the plane. You're like, that was a pretty successful trip, guys. Points in 3 or 4 games, and
five out of 8 points.
Yeah, that'd be really, really successful trip. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And then especially when you're coming home and you're playing a team that you just played, so you're a little familiar with them too in the Canucks. Yeah. So we'll see. It should be interesting. All right, couple other things: goaltending and special teams. So Sam Ersson looks very good. He's stopped 67 of 69 in the preseason. 2 starts here to start the year. 24 of 26 in Vancouver, 27 of 31 against the Oilers. I know the Oilers one doesn't look as great. He had some great saves. He's been rock solid to start the year. Fedotov in Calgary struggled, had a couple of goals that were like, whoa. He was kind of like way out of position on the one on the power play, on the second one from the Flames. One of them ended up going off Huberdeau's shoulder. It was just one of those kind of nights. Like it was just, everything looked like it was just bound to go in, unfortunately. And I can't, like, Ersson on one hand looks great, and it's awesome, and it's like, great, like this guy might be the starter. And then you start hearing about some of the other Flyers goalie prospects, and Igor Zavragin and Carson Bjarnason and all those other guys, and you're like, all right, well, the Flyers are a little bit of a goalie factory is what it seems like. And then you still have Kolosov, everybody else, and then you see Fedotov, and you're like, oh my god, like this is rough. For me, I don't look that way though, Mike. Like I mean, like this is a guy who's played like. He's played 4 games. He started in I think 2 off the top of my head. The other one he kind of came into. The other 2 games he came into. I think he's played like maybe 10 or 11 periods in the NHL. That's just not enough to see what he is yet.
Yeah, no, and in all fairness, right? It's a lot, and coming over here, getting your again, it's a different game over here than it is in Europe, and things are more compressed and more intense, and things happen a little quicker. Plays a little more bang in front of you, and a little more scram. Like there's a lot of action. The players are sharper, and players shoot better, and there's a reason why they're in the NHL, right? So some of that takes time. Is that it's a knee jerk? Like there's gonna be I can see a goalie battle developing for the 2 and 3 spots. Between the 2 Russian guys. And how long do you let that go again? So there's always that fine line, right? So it's like. As a coach, as Torts, he's like, well, I can't play Ersson every game, but I got to get wins, and I'm not sure about the other guy yet, but I know I got to figure out the other guy, so I got to play him, but now I'm worried we're not getting wins. So it's like, how long does this little cycle go? And that's kind of where, it's a little bit of an experiment. It's a little bit of hoping. It's a little bit, well, I can't hope too long here, because all of a sudden you start dropping games, and it's like, when you pull the plug on it, when's the next guy get the shot? So in all fairness to him, he's going to get a few more reps for sure, and I don't know if they announced their starter for tonight yet or not, or they wait.
I'd assume it's Ersson. I'm assuming.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure, I don't know either, and so because you got a home opener, and then do you want to play? That means you give him Fedotov the opener, because you can't come off a cross country flight, you got to like,
Yeah.
I don't know, you got to probably,
Especially
I don't
because
know.
next week it's 2 back-to-backs. It's
Yeah,
Tuesday,
so you
Wednesday,
got to play them
Saturday,
then. So
Sunday.
you're going to play them both. You're going to play them both in the back to back. And I don't know. The trip's getting a little bit long. I don't know. You got to start getting this guy some games. You still got to figure out what you got, right? So
Yeah.
I think they go with Fedotov, but I
Especially
don't
Seattle too, because
know.
they've struggled to score, and they're not. Kraken are just kind of like they're kind of like in the middle of kind of what they are. I don't think they know what they truly are yet this year. Obviously, nobody does, but I think you get what I mean. Like they're coming off of a year where they went from one of the best teams in scoring to one of the worst. We talked about that a little bit. I think it would probably make more sense for Fedotov in that tonight.
It does. And then you go home, you got the home opener, and then you're home and home with Wash, right? So you want
Yeah,
Ersson probably playing 2 or 3 of those, and then
yeah,
Fedotov will get one of those, So yeah, you feel like you got to get them in. Again, you're trying to help one goalie out, and you're trying to get a read on the other. So it's like you got to, and there's no other way but to play, So you got to get out there and play them and see what happens.
yeah.
So that's my
No, for
take.
sure.
And then looking
No,
at Ersson 2 of the next 3, home and home with Wash, and probably give him the home.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. Because then too, it kind of dials down. Like you're only going to Washington, and then that you have a back to back, but they're both home games. It's a 1 o'clock game and then a Saturday, or excuse me, a Sunday against Canadians at home. So it kind of goes back and forth there a little bit.
yeah.
As for the power play and the PK, so the power play right now, they went 1 for 4 against the Canucks, 1 for 4 against Calgary, 2 for 7 against the Oilers. Technically, it was 3 for 7. We were talking about that before. It like just ended.
Technically, it's 2
Yeah.
for 7, but for all
Uh,
intents and purposes, it felt like 3 for 7, right? It
yeah,
did.
it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And then they're 4 for 15, 26.7%. As of last night, they were tied for 10th in the league. That's obviously excluding last night's games when I was doing these notes. Face-offs, not great. They are currently about 41%, or excuse me, 46% on the season, 28th in the league. They were under four. They were really under 45% for 2 of those games, the Oilers and the Canucks, and then the Flames. They were a little bit higher at 55. Rough start in draws. Obviously, those are huge. Less possession of the puck. You're always chasing it, then all that. And then in terms of the power play, it's had some good moments. They've kept the pretty much both of the units have been pretty much kept together. They've had Michkov on that right flank. Drysdale's been the main power play quarterback. I would like to see Cam York used in it more. I think the second unit was very good against Vancouver. First unit's taken over a little bit as the season's kind of gone on. Penalty kill wise, they've been fine. There hasn't been really much that's been brutal. They did give up a couple power play goals in Calgary. The one was a pretty long-winded 5-1-3. Sometimes it was just kind of like bad penalties at bad times, and then most of the first period in that one, but like the way that the penalty kills looked, it's had some good moments. They got the shorthanded goal as well to start the year, and they've had chances. Konechny had a breakaway in the first game on shorthanded. He scored a shorthanded on a 2-on-1. I believe they had another 2-on-1 in the last game as well. So they did, the power kill that they talked about last year, that's been straight out of the gate, been the same thing like last season. But just any thoughts overall on just special teams and obviously the face-off dot like we talked about earlier?
Well, I think the PK's right been as advertised, right, and that's
Yeah.
a pretty strong suit, So that's kind of like expected, right, and good to see. Always love a good penalty killing. And as far as the power play, Michkov is obviously an influence on it. It has a puck on his stick a lot. To be in the top 10, I think you got to be really thrilled with where that's trending at 25%ish right in there. You're like very happy about that, right? So it'd probably be even higher. Technically that one was not a power play goal, but it was expiring, and I mean, you obviously can't count it for your stats, but still a lot of good stuff out of a second unit. So I think you got to be really encouraged with the power play. Again, Michkov as it's a nice like kind of quarterbacking guy they have on it. Drysdale, I don't know if he's been much of a factor on it yet, but certainly been some nice confident plays. You see Michkov making some confident plays. He hit Konechny out in the slot, a little sauce from the goal line. Really nice play. Kind of hit Skinner right on the shoulder without him moving. It's more TK just kind of hitting him, versus him making the save. but little compliment plays, little 10-foot plays like that are good. So I think that's trending in the right direction, and probably to get better if they, these units kind of get some cohesiveness and some, kind of that little feel that good units have, little plays that you don't necessarily teach, but the guys pick up on, and night after night they go back to. And then the faceoffs, you really have to do a little deeper dive. I'm sure they are with their centers. Are we losing them clean? Or are we losing 50-50 battles now? Now centers get all the attention. And for people to understand faceoffs, it's 3-on-3 on faceoffs. Like, you really need your wingers, and it's kind of a lot of attention goes to the centers and who's good at them and stuff like that. There are guys that are good at them and win a lot on their own. But to bump your percentage another 5 or 7% as a team, you really need wingers to get in and fight, right? And they've got to crash. They can't spectate on the side, and it's really hard unless you got a coach. It's one thing I didn't really appreciate till I played for a certain coach, was that how important the wingers are, and you want to have your center out. That means you have the puck, right? And there's not a center out there that doesn't love having great wingers on the draw, man. Hey, you're helping me, help me help. Right, help us all. So wingers, it was a source of pride for me as a winger to really, when I
get in there.
Like, if there's a puck and it's laying, say you're at center ice, it's laying on the red line. Like, I got to beat my guy to it. I got to get it. I want your percentage to go up. I want to be, because then at the end of the day, when the game's on the line, guess whose line's going to be out there taking draws? Our line.
Yep.
So you do it for selfish reasons, but it helps the team too. Like, it's such a benefit, and your center's going to love you. When you get in there, stick your nose. Like, faceoffs they're not just the center, man. And it's, so you got to really see, are we losing pucks from the wingers? Are we losing 50-50 battles? Are we getting speed? Now, if we get clean, that's one thing. We're going to work on technique. We're going to work on, start to examine a little bit closer. But then, as a coaching staff, you can be like, hey, wingers, we got to be better on draws here. Like, our centers are creating 50-50 pucks, and you guys aren't quick enough to get in there. And you're losing. And when you get there, you're losing the battle. So got to analyze that a little bit deeper, I think, and what's the root of it.
Yeah. Is there any stories off the top of your head from just like plays off the draw or anything you can remember, just like chirps or anything like that?
As far as, it's just, guys like, I don't know, and guys like, I remember just Eric Lindros was like bull rushing guys, when I was with the Rangers. There's different ways to do it. Some guys come power, there's you're going to run me over, or they give you the accidental butt end. You're at center and they spin, and there's an accidental butt end flying by your chin, and you're like, like, oh yeah, sorry about that. But then they're like smiling as they're going away, right? But and it's I actually played with one guy in Washington, Dave Steckel. So he was kind of a face-off guy, and talking about face-offs, and he gets thrown out there every draw, right? So he was face-off specialist, and it's like he win the draw, and then he's immediately going off the ice. And then finally told him one day, hey, you know what? Actually, the better you're the one role right now, the better you do your job, the less you actually play, because you win the face-offs that goes down the ice and he changes. If you lose the draw, you get to stay on the ice, right? But he was so good at winning face-offs that they throw him out there, win the draw, and then he'd get off the ice. And it's like, that's usually it works the other way. You do your job really well, you get more ice time. His
was less.
A good face-off guy who's coming out late in the game. The better you do your job, like a Luke Glendening in Tampa Bay. The better you do your job, the less you seem to play, because you win it, they clear it, you get off the ice, they put somebody else out there. So, but I saw in the OT too, he did that with they have Coots out there for the start of the draw, try and get possession. Yeah, and especially in 3-on-3, that's a huge thing. Is you'll put a face-off guy, your best guy, out for the 3-on-3 because you've seen how much teams rag it, right? Like, they don't give a fuck about 3-on-3, which now is getting boring a little bit, in my opinion, anyway. But
I agree.
And the Edmonton Flyers game the other night was awesome because it's up and back. But
there's games when 3-on-3 is fantastic, and then there's games where it's a snooze fest.
But that's a subtle little play. Like, you don't have your best player out there taking the draw. You have your face-off guy out there, get possession, get him off. It's like lacrosse, a face-off, get-off guy, the Fogo, right? And in lacrosse, they face off and they get off the field. So, so there's my tangent on face-off. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so a couple more games coming up, Mike. We got Seattle, Vancouver for the home opener, and then a back-to-back against the Caps. Any thoughts going into these next couple games?
Again, it's guys are getting probably a little bit tired, being on the road and kind of looking forward to
Coming
you
home.
know, again, yeah, and I'm sure they're flying home right after, right? So, and that's a
Yeah, I
long
just assume
flight.
that probably
But
makes the most sense.
a
Yeah.
Saturday start. That's a big ask too.
Yeah.
So now you're coming in, you're landing Friday morning at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever, and you know you're not going to practice and see you on Saturday morning, and then be ready for the home opener. You know, so but you know it's you know the coaching staff's task is to really like, hey guys, this is it. We gotta blow it out here. You know, like we gotta we have a really good chance and be talking positive. Like we got a real good chance to make a nice road trip out of this. We pull a win out of here, like that's a real successful. And we're right there. You know, we got a good chance to really make this successful. So, you know, and that would be my message. You know, kind of rallying the troops here. You know, like flip the lights on and off. How we're going to wake guys up and say, hey, this is really important. I know it's game 4 or whatever, but like we have a real, you know, this is a real boost. We really take off after this, and you get to go home after, and then we'll worry about that. But you know, it's
one
about
of those ones where it's
muster the energy and muster the the willpower to try and finish off with a win. And Harp, no, you don't need to, let's not tax our penalty killers. Let's try and make this, get this in our advantage, and by not taxing our PK, having the puck, trying to create more power plays, and at least 5-on-5. So
exactly. Just for them to kind of end the road trip, make it easy on themselves, and
try and make it. Let's not do anything to hurt ourselves. Don't shoot ourselves in the foot too much. Right?
Yep, exactly. All right. Anything else, Mike? Any other thoughts?
Good. No.
Good.
I'll thought it out. That's
it. All right. We'll send it over to Mike Richards. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back here to Kickin' With Knuble. A little 2-part episode here. We're here with Mike Richards, former captain of the Flyers, teammate with Mike. Richards, thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on, and we appreciate you taking the time. What are you up to now, and just kind of everything that's been kind of going on outside of hockey?
Yeah, not much. Still in Kenora. I come back here, spend the summers here every year, and then we do the snowbird thing down to Florida. So we're hanging out here until the end of November, and then heading down there. Yeah, end of November, beginning of December. So lots of fishing up here in the summer. My wife has far too many horses, so we take care of them, and out kind of at the barn, 5-6 days a week, kind of doing whatever's needed out there, and then just kind of filling things to do until we get back to Florida.
Nice.
That's awesome. What kind of horses do you guys have then?
So I'm not great with that. She's got like mares, and like mostly like all of hers are jumpers. We got a couple like rescued that went to an auction a few years ago, and instead of like being put down, and I know people buy them for like horse meat and stuff. Like she went there and bought a couple just to kind of come to our farm as a retirement place sort of thing. So we have like 10 to 12, which is a lot of work for her. She does most of them. We have one person there helping us out, but it's kind of her little deal that she likes to go out and hang out. Gives me something to do because they make a mess, and
there's always poop to pick up. That's right.
Yeah, lots of stuff, like, and just break a ton of things. So it's good for me too. Like it's a little like it's almost like therapy going out and hanging out with the horses, because we got a lot of land. We got like 260 acres, so we can go out there, and we've hunted on the property before. We've they've got little trails and stuff, so it's a nice area to go out to. We don't live on the farm or on the property, but it's pretty close. And she jumps, and we take a horse to Florida too. This year we'll take 2, so she rides when we're there, and I end up golfing and fishing and stuff like that down in Florida.
Can you shoe a horse? You shoe them and everything?
No.
Do that? Okay, you don't do that stuff.
No. Yeah, no. So it's funny, like
I thought you were like a cowboy or something. You're
I'm not comfortable. Like I never grew up with horses like she did. So like she's comfortable around them. Like she'll like I mean, they're massive animals, obviously, but she just like manhandles them or like woman handles them, pushes them away, and I'm like kind of 10 feet, stay clear. So even after, I think we've had the barn for I think 5 or 6 years now, and I'm still, just kind of keep my distance. I'll go out there and clean up the stalls and do what I need to and bring them out, but it's the bare minimum and interaction with the horses.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just kind of going off that then, in terms of hockey and stuff, obviously, you guys are, I know, Mike, you just played in the alumni game the other night for the Caps. Richie, I'm not sure about you, but I know you guys played in the alumni game in January. How was that? How was the experience? Just kind of getting back into Philly and things like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I liked it. I wasn't nervous like going back, but I just never like done any of those things, especially like being up in Kenora here where everything like nothing's really easy to get to. So I just like a lot of the time it's like 2 hour drive, 2 flights to get anywhere. So we don't end up going to many of those events. So I was excited to get back and I had a lot of fun. I think I'll hopefully do more of those in the future. Get back to Philly, especially because I like going there, watching the game. And even when we're down in Florida, like in West Palm, we're still an hour from Sunrise, and then Tampa's on the other side. So I don't even get to see many NHL games anymore. And we're 2.5 hours from the Jets. So it's not like nothing's an easy watch to go to a game. So I had a lot of fun. My wife enjoyed being back there and just getting to see, I guess, everybody again. I think that's always the best part. Like going into the dressing room with the guys. A couple years ago, we had a 10-year anniversary of our 2012 team, and it's just amazing how much changes, but how little all the interactions with everyone else is too. So it's always enjoyable just to see your teammates again, because it's pretty crazy how when you're finished, how it'll go from like once a week talking to once every couple weeks, and then time takes over and you don't talk to a lot of the guys anymore. So it's always nice to see everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was nice to have you back. It was good to see you, and you deserve to be back there being a captain, and that means something, in that franchise. And Brad Marsh does a really, really good job with the alumni stuff. It's fun. I get what you're saying, though. It's a lot of work to get to the airport. It's all day or just even go anywhere, right? But
yeah,
I thought, yeah, like during that game, man, you were in great shape. You were in game shape, man. I thought you were phenomenal. Like I can't keep up. Hartnell and I and they set me up about 5 times, could not convert. That's just being over 50. But
yeah,
it was fun. I think with 15,000 people were watching that game, and it was a pretty big deal. It was a lot of fun. They do a real nice job with that. So it was great. It was great, awesome to see you. Like you said, catching up with guys is always fun.
Yeah. Brad does do a great job. Like even I always get the emails, and like a lot of the times just didn't work out before. So when I got the email about this, I was pretty pumped about coming back and just seeing like even like the older Flyers who were always around when I played that were still there, and you got a relationship with them a little and seeing them too. So the whole weekend for me was awesome. And just happy I did it, and happy to get back there, and hopefully again here soon to get back again.
No, it's awesome, especially too with just like how the Flyers have kind of gone, and it's kind of you guys were in an era that was a lot different with the fans and everything too. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to ask you guys about 2008. Obviously, Mike, I keep saying Mike. I'm going to make sure I don't do that throughout this and make sure I get the right one.
Yeah.
And Mike, we talked about before with Marty on how, the vibe kind of going into 08 was, obviously you guys were one of the worst teams in the league in 06, 07, trying to come back from that and trying to come back from that and just kind of, see what could happen. You guys went out and got, Chemo and Hartnell, Briere. Marty came at the deadline that year. For Richie, this one's for you too. could you guys kind of sense like with the way that the team was kind of going and trending? I know Marty touched on it a little bit, Mike. Just how the team was kind of up and coming, and then that following year, you guys with the coaching change and everything, you get the Eastern Conference Finals. But could you guys kind of see that was kind of on the rise a little bit?
Yeah, I think even that year, like we were so bad that the 07 year. I think like when Homer came in, and even like the trades he made for like Coburn, some of the guys from the Phantoms got a shot, so you could kind of see like I guess the outskirts of a team, and then or the team that it was going to be the following year. And then I think we signed Chemo, Danny, who are like huge stars. Chemo I didn't know as much of. Just him being in Nashville, you don't see as much of the Predators on the national kind of stage, but then just like getting to know him and seeing him in training camp, and like we were going to be better. It's hard to say that like we were going to go on. Like I think that year we went to the conference finals.
Conference final, yep.
Yeah. So it's always like obviously you got to have some luck with that, but I mean there was no doubt we're going to be better than the year before. That's
right.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that summer was transformative a little bit. Bringing in Scott and Chemo and Danny, and it was kind of taking another big step forward. Marty, was Jason Smith the captain? Was Jason Smith the captain?
Yeah.
He's the hardest guy. Yeah, and he was a great captain and would do anything. And then you and Jeff were kind of getting you guys were becoming like significant players in the league. Not only on the team, but pretty well recognized around the league as like legit, good, young, kind of that next generation. So, a lot of signs or a lot of things pointed in the right direction there. And you knew that the year before, like, when the Flyers are down, like there's going to be something's going to happen, right? Something's going to happen. They're going to fix it quick. So, but yeah, that one to make the conference final, felt like geez, we could have even done a little better, but it's the way it works out, right? But we were there. We made a big step forward, which was good. So
yeah, and that year kind of set the Flyers up for the next like 4, 5, 6 years. Obviously, Richie, went to the Cup in 2010. Mike, you ended up going to Washington after that a little bit. In terms of kind of where the team is now, obviously it's a rebuild. One of your guys' teammates, Danny Briere, now GM of the team. You have Keith Jones, who's kind of involved. Just Richie, just any thoughts on just kind of where the Flyers are at now and just kind of the state of the rebuild and all?
Yeah, I was happy last year to get to see them live because you could see on TV that they were a team like similar to us, I guess, and when not as bad as we were that year, but they had a lot of good pieces that just were kind of stepping towards kind of being a really good team. And I think they were, even when I watched them in Philly, hopefully the Michkov is going to turn into that superstar because it just seemed like everything they were trying to do on the ice, they just had to work so hard for it. So when they don't have like that superstar player, you're always having to like work for your goals, and nothing comes easy. Where when you have a superstar, and hopefully, obviously, this kid's going to get better and hopefully turn into one. But when you have those players, it just makes scoring so much easier. You don't have to work as much for it, and when it just makes the game so much easier when you have stars. It's just you just need one.
It's the truth.
Yeah. One chance and it goes in. Where when you don't have those players, it just seems like you need 4 or 5 of those opportunities to score. So that's what I noticed last year with them playing, and obviously they have really good players. But I was glad to see that at the deadline, Danny didn't just go out and give away draft picks just to try to like push for the playoffs, because I think you could look at that team, and even though they might have made the playoffs, I don't know if they would have went deep. So I think it's encouraging, I guess, if you're a Flyer fan, to see that he's trying to build a championship team instead of just a playoff team. And I think sometimes in the league, if you look around, you could see a lot of teams just trying to make the playoffs and hoping to win instead of trying to build a championship team. So I was happy to see that. It's nice to see that you're doing it right and you're not just trying to like push through players and just try to get into the playoffs and then get lucky to win. You're trying to build that championship team. So when you get to the playoffs, you have expectations to win and not just kind of hoping for it.
It's always kind of patience in that method, right? So living in Michigan, the Red Wings are now 6 or 7 years into this plan, the Yzer plan, right? Steve Yzer.
Yeah.
There's patience in Jonesy and Danny are new, right? So you got a little, the leash is a little longer, but every year it's like the leash starts. Where's my hand? The snip, you snip a little more off the leash, and the leash starts getting a little, starts to tighten up, and so, but it's true. It's always that fine line. You have these draft picks, but they're still 3, 4. Most of them are 3, 4 years away, and it's and it's great to have all these picks, but sometimes we need some players now, and the fan base wants it like right now, and it's hard. You can sell the plan for a bit, but then you've got to start making chunks of progress, and not like a point or a couple points here and there, like a nice jump forward. And you're not going to keep going forward every year. You might have to go lateral one year, but as long as you can bite off a decent chunk in the standings, it's hopeful. Is that going to start this year? It's hard to say already.
Yeah. It's tough too for them, like draft picks, and you can bring it to the Flyers too. Like if you look at like how many players actually turn out from your draft picks, like it's tough, especially to find those like impact players. So like I don't know, like draft picks are great obviously, and you want to like build a team, but you just have to hit, and it's so hard, like 18-year-old kids to draft and say like, this guy's going to be, the next superstar on your team, which is another thing too about like everybody in the league getting these long-term contracts when they're 21, 22, 23, and you're trying to draft them at 18, like the same type of thing of like kind of making sure that they hit or that they're going to be superstars is so tough. Like you don't want to say that it's lucky, but like you do have to get a little lucky on.
Oh yeah.
Other than maybe your top 10 draft.
Yeah.
Like
no, 100%, and especially too, like if you look at in recent history, like Flyers haven't really had a lot of guys that they've hit on. Like they've struggled in terms of player development, and in the last 5 drafts, they have 3 guys on their team.
Yeah.
And 2
crazy.
of them are
Flyers
recent.
used to be really good at like drafting. If you like look back to our kind of before us, like Justin Williams,
Patrick Sharp,
good, Simone Gagne, like me, Jeff, Claude Giroux, and you can kind of go through it. Like they always seem to find good players that weren't in the top 10, really. Like
JVR,
JVR,
I mean he was a 2,
yeah. But they always, they always seem to find those really good draft picks. Patrick Sharp was another guy that was with Philly. So, I mean, it's huge when you can do that. Like Tampa, when they won, they found all those guys not in the first round. Vasilevsky, Kucherov, that Pelot, the guy in Killorn. Like they had so many guys that weren't like high draft picks, and it just sets your team up so quick when you can bring in these 3rd, 4th, 7th rounders to play and have an impact.
They're like, it's like a winning lottery ticket. It's like
it really is.
The old diamond in the rough is great,
So, no, 100%, and especially too, like because again, like kind of like how we were saying with 2008, like it was a lot of trades and free agency. Like that's kind of the opposite of that, is and that's kind of where the Flyers are at now. Richie, you mentioned Michkov a little bit. Jett Luchanko as well. He's a recent guy that just made the team. Currently on it looks like it could be a 9-game kind of skid to see if he'll stay around for the full season. Just any thoughts on those 2 guys and just kind of where the Flyers are kind of going with them?
Michkov, I've only seen him just the other night actually when he played and he scored his first 2 goals. And he looks dynamic. Like he looks like he's just got that knack to score. knack to be around the net. Like he always seemed like he was in the right position in the offensive zone anyways. Like you're just kind of like isolating him when he was on the ice and seeing where he is, and like that, that goal scorer's touch. It's a big skill, just knowing where you are, knowing where to put the puck. So it'll be exciting for Flyer fans to just see him kind of grow up, because he looks like he has all the skill. And then the other player I didn't really see as much, but I got a buddy who's a Flyers fan, and he seems to be really high on him. So I guess for the Flyers, it's tough because, like Mike was saying about Detroit of not being in the playoffs for so long, like you want to give these kids time to develop. You don't want to bring them up too soon, and then you start getting another contract stuff with them about them not being on entry level and all that. But at the same time, you want to have success as a team too. So I think Danny's got a kind of a tough job of knowing when they're ready and putting them in, but also balancing that with kind of where you are as a team. And Flyer fans may not be as patient as some places like Detroit. If they don't go make the playoffs for 6 years when you think the rebuild's over, it might be tough. So I mean, Danny's good. He's a patient guy. He can kind of drown out. Jonesy too knows the game, so they should be good. But my first impressions of Michkov was he seems to be a really natural goal scorer. At least offensively, he looks like he's got a lot of talent there.
So when you and Karts broke in, were you 19? Did you finish your junior, then jump to the American League, right?
Yeah, so I was 20 years old.
When you made Philly?
4 years. What's that?
You were 20 when you started with the Flyers?
Yeah, so I played 4 years junior and then went to, because the 19-year-old year was the lockout year.
Yeah.
So
what was like for you and Karts are kind of same age or whatever, but so what was the hardest part, like when you were 20? That's still really super young, right? You didn't have a ton of, you played 20 plus games, in playoffs in the American League, and not a ton of pro experience yet. What was like, what do you feel like you had to do as a 20-year-old to really like make the team and say, hey, I need to be here? Like for these young guys, what do you feel like you had to prove to show that you belong?
Yeah. Not as much that I had to prove. Like every game was so exciting that I think by the second half of that year, you start like losing a lot of steam, because every single game, like for me, especially because like I'd watch the Leafs games, like Hockey Night in Canada. So every time you go to Toronto or play your first game in Toronto, you're so excited to play. So it wasn't as much like you always just thought that you just like showed up and played. So there wasn't like a lot of thought of, I got to make this team, or you're just naive and you show up and do what you're told for the most part. But I think the challenge for them will be like the second half of the year is the toughest, because everything's new, everything's exciting. You get jacked up for every game. The people, like I'm guessing, like for me, it was always the guys that you would see on TV, your Sakic's. You'd go in Detroit and see some of those lineups with, Shanahan and some of the guys that you grew up. So everything was so exciting, but then by the end of the year, you're just so exhausted because every game that you're so excited for, and then you're not used to playing that many games, it being that physical, and you just kind of lose steam. And I think for them, that'll be one of the toughest things that they'll have to deal with, and Torts will have to kind of manage their minutes and all that stuff. But for me, that was the hardest part of that year. I actually think I started out really well, and then by the end of the year, I went like a long time without scoring, and it's frustrating, and that'll be tough for those guys.
So it's a good point, like for younger players, because you kind of get through through Christmas, through the New Year on adrenaline, and then your stamina for the second half is kind of that old man strength, right? You kind of get in your body, and as a younger 19-year-old, you're not there yet physically. You got to be 23, 24, where your body settles in and you get heavier and you're kind of ready for the rigors, right? So
Yeah, especially like I was 20, so I was even like, I think is Michkov 19 or 20?
Yeah, 19,
He's 19.
A year younger.
Yeah.
And the game obviously now isn't as physical as like
Sure.
my first year, but it's still like it's a lot of travel that you're not used to. It's a lot of games that you're not used to, and like it's even though it's not as physical, it's probably it's a lot faster now, so you're skating a lot more. So it'll be interesting to see how he does with that. But it's not even that you're like there's only so much you can do off the ice with keeping in shape. It's just the energy levels at like you said, the adrenaline for every game, and up until it kind of just hits you at game 47 in January when it's you have that lull. It starts getting tough, and your legs start getting a little heavier near the end.
Yeah. Well, it's nice now. You got a built-in bye week. You can go on
Yeah.
vacation for a little bit. You got something to look forward to.
2 weeks this year, don't they?
I know it's
Yeah.
like crazy. So
Yeah.
I mean, I would love that.
It's the
You're knowing you're going to get a 6-day beach vacation if you want it. You know, like
Yeah.
just like
And 2 weeks without games because of the Four Nations thing.
the
This
Four
year,
Nations, yep.
yeah.
like
But then
you,
that, and that works too. Then now everything starts to get compressed a little bit, right?
Yeah,
So,
true.
Yep.
you know, maybe you're playing 14
A lot more
games,
back-to-backs.
and they pay a price a little bit for that for sure. You know, it kind of compresses stuff. So yeah, it's a good point. You know, the second half and you know, first half's kind of energy and you're excited. You know, that newness starts to wear up where everything's new. It gets tiring, right? When you're a first year player, like everything's new. This town's new. This rink's new. This is new. This hotel's new. This restaurant's new. Like it's like everything's new all the time, and it's like you kind of get sick of being new. You know, I think that's the second year. You know, you get that kind of that newness factor's gone. A bit familiar, you get a little more comfortable, and sometimes the second year, you know, that you kind of pop forward.
Yeah. The second year I struggled too because you don't have that same adrenaline. Like you still are going to the games, and it goes from the adrenaline of a new season to not old hat, but you're still not realizing that it's your job. So you're just going there to play, and you struggle with it a little after your first year. You're a pro, and you obviously work out, and then you go into the second year, and you know you're this like wily veteran now that like you kind of take things for granted, and you don't have that same adrenaline. I think a lot of people struggle with it their second year because they don't have that same excitement from your first year for every single game, every new place, every playing in your hometown, stuff like that. So and then third year usually you kind of have it not figured out, but you're a little more comfortable and realize where you're at.
Sure.
Yeah. No, it all of it's definitely fair. I think especially too, like Mike, you touched on the schedule. They have, I think it's 13 back-to-backs, and it's like 11 3 and 4s and like 10 4 and 6s, like kind of like all of it's condensed, and then obviously like the Four Nations there too, Reggie, like you were saying, like all of it's really tight. So it's a lot of and it's kind of like Mike, what we talked about before is like don't kind of leave points on the board kind of thing. Like if you got a chance to close out a game, then close it out, because it only gets tougher when you have so many games and so many nights and all that too.
Yeah, that would actually probably even tougher for a rookie. All those back-to-backs, like you get 2 weeks off to kind of get your energy back, but like all those back-to-backs you're probably not used to. And then like if the team goes on a little bit of a skid where you're not playing very well, like instead of a 2-week stretch where you may have 5 to 6 games, now you have 10 games in 2 weeks, and that's a lot of points that you're not playing very well for.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. In terms of you guys as teammates, Richie, any funny moments with Mike that you can remember off the top of your head? Not to put you on the spot, but
yeah, no.
Well, I'll give him a little time to think. It's hard, right? Because there are you forget stuff as you go. I'm mad I don't write stuff. I should have written stuff down as I went. Just some day-to-day stuff, because it's the stuff you forget. But like I guess one thing with Mike, he was a younger player, single at the time, so we were a young family. So we had we'd have Mike over for Thanksgiving a couple times for the U.S. Thanksgiving just because he was around. I think you took your first house was in Haddonfield, or you're renting in Haddonfield, right? Yeah, right in our neighborhood. And so we're like, this kid can't be on his own for Thanksgiving. So we're like, just come over. And sure enough, our kids were the age, Cole and Anna and Cam, they were under 10, all of them, I think. And, the knee hockey, it was like, Mike Richards going to play knee hockey. Yep. So it was down the basement, make him be on his hands and knees and crawling around the floor, just what you want to do on his off day. I always thought it was the best birth control you could ever have, was come to our house and play. Have the kids wear them out and be like, see, this is what we do when we go home. And be like, hey, no, I'm going to be single for a while. I think I'm going to try to get involved in this for a while. So, but
that's great.
It was always a treat. It was always a nice thing. The kids love it. And our picture, computers, how they scroll through pictures. Once in a while, it pops up, you guys playing knee hockey and scrolling through the catalog or whatever. And so it was always a treat to have Mike and come over, and just a nice calm for being a young guy. He was super just nice to have around, right? He'd been like your son, who's just a nice kid to have around, and just, he didn't have to cook or anything, and he could just eat and come and go and get dragged around the basement. Yeah. But it was always, that's one of the things I remember was having you over for Thanksgiving. What a treat it was.
Yeah, there was a lot of like we'd go over to Sammy's kid, Sammy Kapanen's house our first year, and then like Kasperi, I played against him not long ago. What was it? When I was in LA, I think was his first year in either Toronto or Pittsburgh, but it was funny to see that. And then Jeff Sanderson's kid now in Ottawa. So it's just like, it's always funny just realizing, I guess, how long ago that was. These kids around the room, Danny Brayer's kids, like stuff like that, or, like in and around the league now. It's always kind of cool, but it's always like, it's crazy to think like, man, that was 16 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was, to see that. But yeah, we had a pretty good group there in Haddonfield. Like, I remember picking you up for games, and like Johnny Stevens was so mad when we switched it from the practice rink. And when we moved downtown, there's a big group of us, and then we switched the morning skates from the skate zone down to the Wachovia Center at the time, I think it was. But Johnny was so mad at everyone for thinking that it was just us moving it just because we lived downtown, but it was like Danny and Keith and that. But yeah, it was a pretty good group out there in Haddonfield.
That's funny. I used to have you come pick me up. That's right. You take me up. You had like an aviator, right? A Ford or Lincoln Aviator. Yeah. Your sensible car. Yeah, nice sensible car. I remember that now. Yeah, it was like tan. Was it tan or something? It was kind of
something like that.
That's funny.
It's funny.
So they come pick me up. Yeah, so my wife could drive down with the kids or whatever.
Nice. That's awesome.
I forgot about that till you said that. That's right.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, so the last thing here, Richie, each week we do trivia. So I ask Mike a question about himself. I'm actually going to be asking him a question about you. So this will be interesting to see if he gets this one. So Mike, your teammate here, Mike Richards, is tied for third all time in shorthanded goals in a season as a Flyer. How many did he score and what season?
All right. Well, he was actually really good at this. So it's more than 5. It's probably less than 10. So I'm going to say 6. And
what year?
He was dangerous. Like he was really sharp on a PK. Like he was savvy, real savvy about knowing where the puck was going, picking stuff off. He had a good stick too. So I'm going to say 6-ish, and it'd probably be maybe that year we went to the conference. Was it 08-09?
Yeah.
No, because the other year you guys made it.
Yeah.
Was it 08-09 season or 07-08?
In both years you played Pitt in the conference.
All right, so I'm going to say 07-08, 6 goals that year.
You're close. It's 7. You got the season right, but it was 7 goals.
Right, Yep. I remember he was really good at it. He was really, really good at it. So
I stumbled on YouTube the 5-on-3 shorthanded goals, the one against the Rangers, the one in Vancouver. There was a couple of those.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He had a real good knack for that. I think Richie was always he had a real good knack for the game. Like in that respect, he had a real good knack for like I'm gonna go out and have a fight right now. I'm gonna do something. And he also, I mean, for better or for worse, you got the rule book changed, right? Kind of. And so, you know, you were really, you could be a real predatory type hitter. And I mean that, like, and nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, you were good. And you knew how to give out a hit when you really had to. And they've actually eliminated some of these style of hits. You and then Matt Cook took it a little bit further too. Like, yeah, but you're not going to take credit for it, right?
No.
But yeah, you don't want to do that. But you know, like you were like a nasty, like just a hard nose. That's what I respected the most. Was like, this kid can really do it all. Like, he'll do anything.
All right. So that's it for this one. Richie, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. You know, hope all is well, and you know, we'll kind of maybe we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, anytime. Just let me know. It was good seeing you guys, and appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Richie. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you too. Hopefully make her back to Philly at some point here in the near future and catch up, cross paths again at some point here. So
you got it, buddy. Yeah. Thanks again, bud.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot, guys.